TK is batting cleanup. This is speaker number 20, Speaker Philanthropy Global Summit. TK, we've got a super engaged group on. We've gotten to know these folks really well over the last 5 days. And so we're super honored to have you here. It's top of the hour. So, John, let's kick this puppy off.
All right. Thank you, guys, everybody. Strategic Philanthropy Global Summit. TK, you're batting cleanup here on the last day. You're the 20th speaker. It's been amazing. We've had such incredible engagement, and I think I literally have over 200 emails from people that have just reached out to me personally that I still need to get back to, and could not be more excited to have you as the last speaker here. And let me tell you why. So TK is the co-founder, managing partner of Wasabi Ventures. He founded that in 2003. Wasabi Ventures is an early-stage venture capital firm specializing in co-founding, investing in, incubating, building, and advising early-stage tech companies. The firm offers Silicon Valley VC-style services to strong secondary markets. In addition to Silicon Valley, Wasabi Ventures is active in Phoenix, upstate New York, Baltimore, Boston, and New York City. The firm has built, financed, and advised over 200 startups, including some wildly successful ventures like Right Now Technology, PB Works, Ustream, and Etherpad. In the 1990s, TK was the co-founder of 2 successful internet startups, SNT and Spinbox. TK is also the author of all 3 editions of the highly acclaimed book, Web Advertising and Marketing. He has authored dozens of articles about the internet, has been published in leading publications like Inc. and ClickZ. TK spends a great deal of time lecturing at colleges, seminars, companies, conferences about the corporate benefits of utilizing interactive technologies. And he currently sits on the board of sponsors of Selinger School of Business at Loyola University, Maryland. He's presented at hundreds of events, a wide array of topics about economics, entrepreneurism, technology, and management. And TK, welcome to the summit, my friend.
Hey, thanks, John.
And Brian, I'd love for you to, you have worked personally with TK, so before we jump into the interview, I'd love for you to share a few thoughts.
Yeah, so just a couple things that come to mind when I think of TK. Just total high energy, a guy that's just here to help, and more than anything, I think what makes Wasabi different and what really connected me with him and their model right away is they're super early stage in the founder game. So whereas a lot of companies are later stage, they want to see traction before they're going to invest in you. They want to see numbers. They want to see where you're going. Wasabi Ventures takes a people first approach where they actually will find the person, and if they like and know and trust, we've heard that a couple times on the summit, if they see something there, they're going to try to help you, take you under their wing, because they know great companies are built by great people. And that's kind of unique in the venture capital and in that world. In fact, TK, is there really anyone else using that same model? I mean, I know there's like Y Combinator and some of those things, but those are even different.
Yeah. Not anyone really goes as early as we do, nor as sort of human-based as we do. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So when you say human-based, what do you mean by that, TK?
Yeah. So traditionally, and I think Brian did a very good job of sort of laying out the fact that most startup investments are probably somewhere like 95% of startup dollars from an investment standpoint are put into companies that already have a product, traction, sales, revenue, all of these things, all of the things we closely associate with businesses. That's like 95+% of the dollars that globally that are put into startups from an investment standpoint. 20% of our investments are pre-idea. So just let
Wow.
that sink in for a minute.
Wow.
Literally 20% of the time and 20% of our investments start before the person who is pitching us even has an idea yet. So that's why I say that we're very human-centric instead of idea or even business-centric.
No kidding. Wow, that is a big difference. And I'd love to have you start and just tell a little about who you are and your story, just to get to know you personally. And before we do that, maybe you could take your iPhone and just tilt it up a little bit, because you're getting cut off from like the eyes up, just so people can see your beautiful smiling face there, TK.
Is that any better?
That's way better.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'll hold it. I'm balancing the right combination of lighting and video. What I am not is Steven Spielberg. That's what I have learned from this. 3 minutes.
That's what makes
3 minutes into the conversation, and I know I'm not Steven Spielberg.
Hey, you got to know your strengths, right, brother?
Right. Exactly. So just a quick little background on myself. I grew up in Baltimore, so to this day, if somebody asks me, where are you from? I say Baltimore, and I haven't lived there in 20 some years. Yeah, you're always from wherever you grew up, is what I tell people. So, but grew up in Baltimore. Really a lifelong entrepreneur. It's really all I've ever known and all I've ever been. I built my first company in high school. I had 50 some employees as a high school senior. And that's really what started the path of what I've been. And then
what kind of company
went off to college
was that,
and just a landscaping company. I started with my dad's old truck and one lawnmower, one weed whacker, one blower, and next thing you know, you're a whole bunch of things like that. So one thing. It wasn't like there was a grand plan. It was just one thing led to another, like so many things in life. So you do a good job for a couple customers, and a couple customers become a couple dozen customers, which becomes a couple hundred customers. It's just kind of how life goes sometimes. It's sweat and dumb luck is what I usually tell people. So
sweat equity, right?
Yeah, sweat equity and dumb luck. So and then during college, I was very active in politics, actually. I ran for the state legislature in Maryland in 1994, and I lost. And I met a guy at a losers party, and a true story. Yeah, and a losers party is exactly what it sounds like. It's where all the losers who ran for office actually get together and commiserate on why they lost. And so I met a guy at that party, and we became friends, and we're talking 1994, and he said, hey, we should start an internet company. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but you're right. That's exactly what we should do. And, we built it, and we had some success, and I built 2 others sort of during the 90s, during that go-go .com sort of era, and then that sort of all dovetailed to me becoming an angel investor at the end of the 90s. We didn't really call it angel investing then; we mostly called it suicide. And I met a guy named Chris.
That is the highest category of risk for investing.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. It's mostly. The funny thing, not to go on a tangent, but the interesting thing about most angel investors is that they're not really trying to get a return on investment. They just aren't. It's as strange as that is. Probably good 60% of angel investors are investing for other reasons, and we could come back to that for sure, because that might be an interesting topic too for the audience. And then I met a guy named Chris Ye, and we became friends, and we started Wasabi in 2003. And you did a pretty good job of describing Wasabi, John, as you did the bio. But yeah, that's really what we've done, really since then. And we're a fairly decent sized firm, 60 or so employees, which in the sort of space, in the VC space, that's a from a headcount standpoint, that's pretty large.
No, I agree. So, TK, through this whole career, what prompted you to really create Wasabi? I mean, versus doing something else, right? You could have built another big company. You could have, you had so many options in front of you, but you created this model where you're really sowing into this whole next generation of entrepreneurs and business builders.
Yeah, John, it's a fantastic question, and I probably wake up every morning and wonder why the heck I did what I did. So, but in all honesty, it wasn't originally the plan that it is today. It wasn't at all, actually. And I think that's a really important lesson to take away, and I tell this especially to young people all the time, is that most great things are created not with a grand plan. They are created by people who want to keep their eyes open and look at opportunities as they come up. Wasabi really started, and it's an interesting tidbit. Chris and I started Wasabi in 2003 with the concept that just him and I, all by ourselves, we're going to create 16 companies a quarter. Yes, that number's correct. 64 companies a year, all by ourselves with, a couple engineers, and that was it. And we did that for 1 quarter, and then we realized how suicidal that was, because what happened was one of those original companies actually took off like crazy. And we didn't have anybody to run it because we were busy building 16 more companies that weren't any good, but, and we didn't have time to run the one that was good. So we actually sold that company. We said, this model's not going to work. Forget about it. It's terrible. And we sold that company very quickly. You made a couple $100,000 off of the sale. And then we went to straight investing. Really just traditional early stage investing, a lot like a lot of other people did then and do today. And then this is where our man Brian Reese actually comes back into the picture. He doesn't know this exactly, but he was a kernel of one of the pivots that we made. And Brian approached me through a friend, a mutual friend, a guy named Ben Kaznoka. And Brian approached me and said, hey, I got this terrific idea for a startup. I want to build it with you. And he gave me the idea, and it was terrible. It was a really bad idea. I won't embarrass him about what that original idea was, but it was a bad idea. And then for the next 60 days, probably every 3 days, Brian came back with another idea of something that was going to be a great startup. And eventually he just wore me down. I mean, he just he wore me down to the nubs, and I had nothing left to fight him off with. So I eventually said, okay, finally, we'll just build something together. And
all right, hold on. Let me jump in here because I think that is so awesome. So, Brian, what made you keep, it was like, when you're at the shotgun range and somebody's throwing up clay pigeons and Tom is knocking, he's 25 for 25.
Yeah.
Keep throwing the pigeons in the air. What would you like to share to everybody listening about what was behind that? I think there's a great lesson in here.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. So first off, thank you, TK, and you're totally right. I mean, that's exactly how it happened. So for everybody listening, I mean, I see the chat box is lighting up with like persistence, never quit, blah blah blah. It's so true. I mean, Alex Sharfin talked a little bit about that entrepreneurial personality type. John, you're that way. TK, you're that way. I know a lot of you listening are that way. But there's no off switch. You can't turn it off. It's like when you're a founder, when you're a startup guy or gal, these ideas just flow through you like it's a part of you. And sometimes you just got to share them. You got to get them to somebody. You got to write it down. You got to start working on it. But more than anything, you can't ever quit or give up. And don't let somebody tell you no if you think you really have something to offer. And so I think maybe there's a lesson there, is that if you are that type, and that goes for anybody on this call, If we can help you in any way and you're emailing us and we haven't responded, keep emailing us because we will. Eventually, we're going to respond.
So TK, did he finally have a good idea, or did you say, you know what, this guy has the right personality and we'll see if we can co-create a great idea?
Yeah, so that's a good segue, John, about an important data point that we teach actually and talk about a lot at Wasabi is we're really too stupid to know what good ideas are. And I actually teach this class, and we're the first slide in this class. It's a class about ideation. I've taught it at the sort of MBA level. I teach it to elementary school students. So it's a class that's universal. But the very first slide says, all ideas suck. Because the fact is that every startup idea I have ever heard in my life was bad. And it's not that the idea is so important. Now, there are some ideas that on their prima facie can't work. You know, you've seen it 27 times. You know how that story plays out, and it's just not going to work. But finding the idea, quote unquote, that's perfect is usually the kiss of death. What I tell founders is that what's better is for you to pick an idea where you are a domain expert. You know more about a topic than anyone else. And because of that, you will be able to identify, as you start turning idea into company, what's working and not working. And that's much more important than the original idea. So coming back to Brian's thing, the kernel of Brian's idea, the initial tidbit of Brian's idea was not new or revolutionary. You know, test prep for an MBA program was not new and revolutionary. There are probably hundreds of products, thousands of products that exist on the market that are that. What was different was that I got to see Brian and how he had experienced the pain and how he had come up with, in a human, personal way, that he saw a solution and there had to be other people like him that needed a solution like this for this particular thing. The best ideas for business ideas are almost always personal pain points for the founder. And the reason I tell people this is because if it's not a personal pain point, how in the world can you possibly know if you've solved it? You know, I wouldn't in a million years pretend that I know anything about the best way to solve the South African economy today. Why? Because I have zero firsthand experience on the South African economy. I've never spent more than a couple days in South Africa. For me to pretend that I could have a solution would be quixotic. It would be silly, because I wouldn't even know if the solution is good, because I don't have a personal pain point there. And so what I liked about Brian's idea was that he had passion towards it. He could articulate the problem. He could articulate a solution. And last and most importantly, it was a personal pain point. And those things were more important than if the idea was good or not. I tell people all the time, I literally tell people all the time, I am way too stupid to know if your idea is truly good or not. But I definitely know when the idea is horrendously bad. That's all I can tell you.
So when you're looking at working with something, so I think this is a great idea, right? People are, sitting around their kitchen table going, you know what? I'd like to just change our financial future, do some good in the world. Let's all brainstorm on some kind of idea. They're more looking like an idea that they can sell. It sounds like your focus, and I'm guessing this is a common thread, the people that you work with and invest in, they are that domain expert. They have found a solution to a problem they've experienced, and they have a uniquely suited to solve that person for some other person. Is that correct?
That is, you nailed it. You nailed it, John. What I do, I actually have a handful of people going through it right now. I call it the TK trick. So here's the TK trick on business ideas. What I want you to do, there are 3 steps to this. And so it's simple, yet almost impossible for whatever reason, people always want to fight it. So step one is to take 30 days, the next 30 days, and write down every single pain point in your life. Do not, and here are the key rules here, do not think about businesses. Do not think about how these things make money. Do not think even about the solution. What I want you to only think about and write down is every single pain point you have in your life. I woke up, I'll give you an example. You woke up, you were driving in your car to work. You stopped, you got a flat tire. You've never fixed a flat tire in your life. You're sitting on the side of the road wondering, now what do I do? That's a pain point. Write it down. I got up in the morning. For some reason, I always forget to buy coffee at the store. I have no idea. We are always out of coffee. Write it down. No matter how insignificant it is, just write pain points down. That's step one. Step two, after 30 days, is you sit with me, and believe it or not, the whole world can't have a one-on-one conversation with me. So pick somebody who you really trust, and then it becomes a brainstorming session. Just read your pain points and tell the story of why the pain point was a pain point. That's step two. And what happens during that period, if you have the right person sitting with you, is that they say things like, okay, you really had that pain point? Oh, I don't have that pain point. Explain to me what you were trying to do. How did you try to solve it? Then, and it goes back and forth. And the next thing you know, the pain point may not be a business, but something that comes out of it is. Let me give you an example of one that was a true story of a company that started that way, started that way from this trick, went through this process, and then at the end of the day got acquired. So we had a company, we had a company that, or we had a founder. Let's start with the founder. A young gentleman, probably in his early 20s, might have been just out of college, might have been a senior in college. And he did the trick. So he had a list, and he had this long list. And somewhere in the middle of the list, he had this pain point of he didn't have any idea. He literally had no idea how to, and this is going back a way, so you'll have to bear with the thread here. But he had no idea how to book a plane ticket for a trip. Had no idea how to do that. So we're going back maybe 7-8 years now. He had never done it. He was a young man. He had never taken a trip, never used an online service. It was beyond him how he was supposed to book his travel. So we talked about that, and I said, hey, there are things for finding ways to book online travel already. There's probably not a business there, but there is a business. I think there might be a business in teaching people in 30 seconds how to do rudimentary, easy things that the rest of the world might know how to do, and we assume that everyone knows how to do them. And he's like, you're right. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that in my life. Now, his original idea, if he would have came back and said, I want to build this platform for booking airline tickets, it would have been a terrible business because it was already a crowded space. There were already plenty of ways to do it. But what it triggered in my head was, I knew how to do this, and millions of other people knew how to do this, but this guy sincerely didn't know how to do it. Well, there are millions of things that I take for granted and you take for granted that people don't know how to do. And what we did was we built a business that was 30-second tutoring on the simplest of rudimentary things. It was Vine before Vine. It was all video based.
Yeah,
really.
And so the company got built very quickly. We built it in like 90 days, and we sold it within like 270 days. And the kid went to work. It eventually got acquired. It got acquired very fast by another startup, and then it got acquired by Google. So
wow.
Yeah. So, but the key to take away there is that the original idea, the original pain point, was not what turned into a business. It was what just triggered
Huh.
A brainstorm between two people, and that's the key to step two.
So the frustration was he struggled using all these Travelocities and sites that we all use, but he figured, and so boom, wrote it down. That's a pain point. I don't like these sites.
That's right. Just write the pain point down and see if he would. And he really believed in the trick. See what happens to most people, and when it doesn't work. When it doesn't work is that people get hung up in step one and they leave out the most minuscule of pain points, because they say, like, if we would have taken this young kid as an example, well, if he would have gotten hung up on the fact and he said, oh, I'll just go Google it. Oh, look at that. There's kayak already. Oh, it's stupid. I can't build a business around this pain point. We would have lost the magic of brainstorming on a pain point. That's the key. It's not that you find the perfect business the minute you see something. That's not, in my belief, it's almost never the key. The key is to see where things go as people interact with you.
TK, before you jump to step 3, is that maybe this is better for after step 3, is that founder's mentality that you talk about? Let's after you get number 3 out, I want everyone to understand what you mean when you talk about having that founder's mentality.
Yep. And then so step 3, Brian, is what I call the Benjamin trick. So once you do this this narrow down concept of pain points, and you do this sort of odd brainstorming, you what I tell the person is, okay, we've got this new idea, or maybe it's one of the ideas directly from a pain point. What I want you to do is we're going to write up a really quick what the solution is, whatever that is. Then I want you to go talk to 50 random strangers and say, do you have this pain point? Here's how I'd solve it. And oh, by the way, would you pay me $100 if I could solve it? It's the Benjamin trick. And the key is that there is something magical about a $100 bill, that people won't lie to you that they would actually pay for it. They actually think about a $100 bill. Or if you would say, would you pay $10 to solve this? Everybody lies. What they really mean is, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Oh yeah, I'd pay $10 for that. But in actuality, what they're saying is, no, there's no way in all God's good green earth I would pay $10 for that, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. But if you say $100, they actually pause and say, would I actually spend $100? Yes. Yes. And the actual answer probably is they would not pay you $100. They would probably pay you 10 or 20, but they would pay you something. People, especially in the United States, we're a very wealthy nation. For all of our problems, we are a very wealthy nation. And even our poorest people throw $10 bills around like they're going out of style.
Oh yeah, go to look at Starbucks, right? McDonald's.
That's right. So that's why you have to use the Benjamin, and that's why I call it the Benjamin trick. It's not that they would pay $100. That's another key facet of step 3, and you have to tell that entrepreneur in waiting that it's not that they don't fall into the trap to think that they actually would pay you $100. That's not the exercise here. It's just, would they pay you anything? What they would pay you in actual has to come much later. You actually have to probably show them something physical, or the actual solution in action to figure out how much they'd pay. But
here, let me throw something out there, because this is awesome, TK. Anybody out there right now that's listening on this or the rebroadcast, if you actually take 30 days and you fill a yellow pad with all of your pain points, I will volunteer my time to jump in a Zoom room with you and brainstorm on this to find that one thing that you're going to go do the Benjamin trick with.
That's fantastic. What an offer, John. I'm putting that in the chat box. So TK, I just got all 3 of those in the chat box. So hopefully people can copy and paste that stuff, or at least watch this again, which I'm sure they will.
Now, unfortunately, here's what I know. You throw that out to a room of 100 people, you might get one person take you up and follow on with it, and that is probably a perfect segue, TK, into founder's mentality, right?
Yeah. So the key, and Brian, caught me using that word. The founder's mentality. The successful founders I know are not great idea people. It's a complete at least in my opinion, I think it is a miscategorization of people. And
that is a great point, because I think if we polled the audience and said, what is a great entrepreneur? That's what they're talking about, right? They're these visionaries. They have these amazing ideas. They pull resources and relationships out of thin air. They poop rainbows.
Yeah, exactly. And John, I think what's even more important there is that I think it keeps and pushes people to the sideline who otherwise would be active as entrepreneurs, because they don't believe they are an idea person. Ooh,
this is powerful.
Yeah.
So because it's not the idea that matters. It really isn't. Once again, the founder's mentality is not that the idea matters. It's that they can actually iterate when they put any idea out to people, and that they can hear what the feedback is. That's what a founder's mentality is. It's the ability. The word pivot is often used in the startup world. That you pivot things. And I don't care if you use that word or not. That's fine, because it is kind of what happens. But I don't want to overuse a cliche and people not understand, is that it's not that you have the perfect idea. It's not even that you execute on the idea perfectly. It's that you listen and understand when the direction you're going in is not right. That is the founder's mentality.
Is that the pivot, TK, that you're talking about?
I'm sorry.
Is that what you would call the pivot when?
Yeah. Loosely pivoting in the startup world means that you take your existing product or idea or whatever it is, and you pivot, you turn it slightly to adjust to what you've learned. That's pivoting. Now, pivoting has been overused so much that people don't understand, it becomes like a lot of other terms. They just use it like interchangeably with all kinds of things. Right. But in actuality, true pivoting is a slight turn, but you find people that pivot by turning 180 degrees and, they're going in a different direction. Well, that's probably not pivoting anymore. That's you completely tacked and got a new boat. But the key point is, and then sometimes that's what you have to do. But the point is that I don't want people ever to think that they have to sit on the sidelines waiting for the perfect idea, because that 100% will kill you in this business. You cannot wait for the perfect idea. You cannot wait for the perfect product.
Now, when you say don't wait for the perfect idea, it sounds like you're talking about go through this process to find an idea that passes your Benjamin test. Doesn't mean it's the perfect idea, but it's actionable. Is that fair?
That's correct. From a military standpoint, there is no perfect plan, right? I'm a huge military history guy, and
the perfect plan does not survive first contact.
That's right. And there is no perfect plan. You can prepare for all kinds of contingencies and all of that great stuff. But the fact is that what works better is that the 90% ready plan and prepared plan that can happen in 30 days is a lot better than the perfect plan that can happen in 6 months. Yeah. And it's the same thing in the entrepreneurial world.
Well, yeah, and you're talking about, that planning process, which can lead to procrastination, can be a complete paralyzes people that want to be entrepreneurial.
That's right. That's 100%, because what they want to do is the other big thing that I have found, the other thing that I'll talk a lot about in the entrepreneurial world is that, especially in the startup world, is what I call the risk coefficient. You you have to take some level of risk. You have to be able to absorb risk, because there is nothing ever accomplished in life without risking something. So you have to have some level of risk. You have to put risk in, you have to have that risk coefficient. And I'm a believer that some people are born with it and some people are not. And if they aren't born with a risk coefficient, there are other places where we can find for them in our society where that is not as important. But for those that remotely want to touch the entrepreneurial world, and I'm not talking about being a raw tech startup founder, because that's like even a smaller circle of the entrepreneurial world. But if you're gonna play and feel and think entrepreneurially, you have to be able to absorb some level of risk and have a risk coefficient that is higher than 0.
Well, that's a great point, because I mean, risk for an entrepreneur, right? I mean, eventually you've got to put something on the line, whether it's time, money, both, and go for it. And TK, what would you say? What would you say to people who are listening right now or going to listen to the replay, who might just need a little nudge? There's something just kind of holding them back. What would you tell them? Based on everything you've seen, the companies you've founded, what would you tell them to get them going? The theme of this day is action.
Yeah.
You're the last speaker. So we want people on this call to go. I want them to leave this call and go, I am so inspired. I'm going to go fill up my entire notepad, and I'm taking action because I'm done being afraid.
Yeah. I believe that you have to find something that you remotely care about and believe in, or you won't action. You just won't do action. Because all of us, even the craziest of crazy people, I'm way on. The risk coefficient for me is insanely high. I mean, my whole life has been one big risk. I tell people all the time, what I want to do is find the one thing where I bet every single thing I've ever had in my whole life on it. But that's what I want. And so I have a high risk coefficient. So what I have to do is actually take that high risk coefficient and put it in places where I actually care about. That's how the actionable item happens for me. So the first thing you have to realize if you're on this call is, how risk averse are you? If you're completely risk adverse, but you still want to be entrepreneurial, then you have to find a place where you are comfortable enough to take action. Because thinking about being entrepreneurial is about the same as saying, I'm thinking about swimming the English Channel and I have no idea how to swim. We can think about it all day.
Yeah.
You eventually have to do entrepreneurial lifestyles of all kinds, inside of a large company, at a nonprofit, at a crazy tech startup. All of those are entrepreneurial thinking. Okay, all of those are an entrepreneurial mindset that you have to have. They're different, but they're there. But the one thing they have in common is that eventually they have to stop thinking about stuff and start doing stuff. And if your risk coefficient is so, and you just have to know yourself. Be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror and be truly honest. The problem we really have as a society, and this now I'm going way on a bent here, is that we spend way too much time lying to ourselves.
What do you mean by that?
Lying to ourselves and lying to each other.
What do you mean by that, TK?
Because we won't fully accept who we are today and who we want to be. So we look in the mirror. And I'll start with the self-lying. We look in the mirror and we say, you know what? I'm really, really good. I'm really good at this, or I'm really good at that. And we never, the vast majority of people do that and are never really understanding what that means to be good at whatever that is. I'm not talking about you need to beat yourself up, because obviously that's not good. That's not any good either. But being honest and saying, hey, you know what? My skill set really lies better over here. And so going back to this risk coefficient, be very honest with yourself and understand what your life situation is. If you've got 4 kids and a mortgage, and you're the sole breadwinner, you have to probably have a different risk coefficient than the 22-year-old kid who can throw everything in the back of a Chevette and drive across the country. He has less to lose, so they can have a different risk coefficient. But that's being honest, right? That's being honest with your situation. It's being honest with your own personality. And therefore saying, okay, if I know who I really am, at the core of who I am, and I can be honest with that, then I know I can put myself in situations where I have a better chance of success than just being aspiring to be something that I can't possibly be in an actionable way. Because coming back to your point, it's about action at the end of the day. And risk is action.
Mm-hmm.
What a great point. I mean, just for everybody on this call. I mean, I'm taking notes. I'm in the chat box. I'm trying to hear, digest, absorb, and still think of all the 100 things that I want to ask you right now. But I don't want to steal any more thunder. I'm jotting down notes. I definitely have some things that I'm going to work on. John, what else would you want to add in there? I think there's something about ages of founders. So we've got a whole mix of folks on this call, TK, and people who are going to watch later on. We've got millennials, we've got Gen Xers, we've probably even got some boomers on there. What are you looking for in a founder?
Yeah, it's a great question. And most of what I'm looking for is things I've already said. I'm looking for someone who has a lot of domain knowledge on something. Once again, if someone comes in and pitches me about a topic and I know way more than they do about the topic, that's not usually a good starting place, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't pick something where I'm a domain expert and I can add to the conversation. For sure, that's wonderful. That's great synergy. But if you come in and literally, I know an order of magnitude more than you do, that's not going to go well. It just isn't going to go well at all. So domain expertise, if you're pitching me, is probably really important. But then it comes to the 2 other things. Is okay, they've got the domain knowledge. Will people follow them? That's the next thing I'm trying to understand.
So you're assessing leadership or their personality?
Yeah, I am. I don't want to fall into the trap of leadership, because leadership comes in so many forms.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and this is I think it was even the topic that I gave you, or as far as like a title, is that. Let me give the third point, and I'll come back to number 2.
Yeah, your title was "Dreams Are a Shared Opportunity."
Yeah, and I'll come back to that, because it's probably the most important of the 3. But the third and last thing is, do I like this person? At a human level, do I like them? And if I don't like them, no matter how much I think the idea is good or the business that they already have is good, I'm not going to make a bet on them. Why? Because I know I'm going to have to spend a bunch of time with them. And if I don't like them, life is way too short to spend time with somebody I don't like. Why do I care?
Well, I can see how Brian hit all 3 of your criteria.
Yeah, I had to really suck it up just to kind of get past the liking him part. But whatever.
I had the first 2, but man, that third kept you up.
Yeah, that third one took a lot of me, So I'm a very forgiving man, Brian. That's pretty much how you got number 3 done.
You're a sweetheart, TK.
So coming back to that dream, the title. So And this is an important piece. I said, will people follow you? And John, you asked about leadership, and it's actually not just leadership, because once again, leadership has its own sort of its own science to it. But what I mean is that when you have a business, and we'll concentrate in my area of specialty here. If you have a startup, when you first start a startup, when you are just at that idea and the earliest of stages, that's a dream. That's what it is. It's your dream. It is 100% just your dream. Because you probably don't have a co-founder yet. You probably don't have employees yet. You don't have investors. You don't have anything. You've got you sitting in a dark room thinking about your idea at that point. So it's your dream. And the first step you have to do is get other people to make that dream their dream as well.
No.
That's why it's a shared dream. And so it starts with your co-founders or your early employees, your early customers. At a startup, getting customers is so hard because you got to get them to buy into your dream as well. So
right, they have to believe you.
Yeah, you got to take your dream and then make it the we dream. You know, it's that whole group dream. And then so I'm looking for that. And then this is what's really vital. This is where it's like true art. It has no science to it when it gets down to it. Is that what I'm looking for? Will people follow them? I am really trying to understand at the base level, what is the dream of that person? What are the real dreams here? And I'm not talking how does business make money, because that's not the dream. That's a byproduct of the dream. But is it important that this person is famous? Do they need to be in TechCrunch? It's a publication for the startup world. Is that important to them? That's great, but I need to know that because that's part of the dream. And it's going to dictate how they run their business and what kind of business they have to build. And do they understand the pain that comes with that? Do they realize that they're building a dream that's going to take $50 million to get to fruition? Well, that comes with a certain level of pain. That means they're going to lose control of this business at some point. And if they don't understand that, then they don't even understand their own dream. And as an investor, what I'm really doing is I'm trying to figure out if my dreams match their dreams so that they can be our dreams.
Wow.
So if I at any level feel a disconnect with the dream, with the true essence of the dream, and once again, that has almost nothing to do with a P&L, a balance sheet. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the human dreams and hopes of the person sitting across the table from me at the rudimentary level. Do they want to be famous? Do they want to run this company for 5 years? Do they actually want to be the person in charge all the time? Will people follow them in any form? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And that's why dreams are a shared thing. Every dream, and now taking it out of the business realm and taking it out of the startup realm, all dreams in your life, if they are worth anything, are both actionable and shared, right? Because if not, they are truly a dream. They are truly just a dream.
Now, TK, you are a high energy guy, but I got to tell you, when you shared this concept about dreams are a shared opportunity, you took your energy level and your passion just went up a whole notch. You went from a 10 to an 11. I don't know if you ever watched Spinal Tap. There you go. Classic line.
I think he drinks coffee all day, though.
What's behind that?
I literally have a coffee. I have coffee right here sitting next to me.
Beautiful. TK, what was behind that? I mean, that's something that there is something at the core of you that this is just who you are. I'd love to know what's behind that.
Yeah. So, John, this is what's really interesting about Wasabi is that Chris and I started as entrepreneurs, and we've never really stopped being that at some level. Even though we're kind of on the other side of the table these days, and we're more investor than we are entrepreneur at some levels, we never stopped that. And what happened was, I've been an entrepreneur in some form since I was 15 years old. It's really all I've ever done. And in the startup world, I've been a startup founder since I was 22 years old. So, and I learned, and I did not have mentors. People say, "Oh, who's your mentor?" No one. I come from a family where they still to this day don't understand what I do. If my mom was on the call right now, she would not be able to tell you what I do for a living. She has no idea. So I don't come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I actually come from a long line of union carpenters. 5 generations, every single male is a union carpenter except me. So I didn't have mentors growing up in this space. I grew up lower middle income for sure. My parents got married; they had $14 to their name. So I getting to my, I went a long way around the barn, but the point is that this was all of this dream is a culmination of living it first and then watching it later. And that's and observing what this really all means. That's because the beauty of Wasabi Ventures is we hear, and this is a actual number, an average week for us is 126 pitches.
Oh my gosh.
6,000 in the last year, 30,000 in the last 5 years. So I get to watch, and me personally, I probably listen to 20 to 30 startup pitches a week. Still, me personally, I'm hearing 20 to 30. And so I get to watch and observe a lot of humans try to tell me their dream. And so therefore, the more, it's like any other practice of anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And observing and watching people and breaking people down and understanding what they are actually saying and what they think they're saying is just a skill that I've picked up doing it thousands of times since 1994.
Yeah. So TK, I mean, what TK didn't tell you is that of those 30,000 ideas, 29,000 of them might have been from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian was in there. Brian was in there 30 times last week, guys.
Yeah, just kidding.
Another really interesting thing to remember is that we're hearing all of those, and Wasabi Ventures is a fairly active early stage investor. We're making 30 investments a year.
Wow.
So that's 6,000 pitches and 30 yeses. So the bar to get to a yes is hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's how this game gets played, and it's not easy. It's not meant to be easy, and because we're betting a significant amount of money on nothing except an idea, a dream,
and a person, right?
And a person, and what I tell people, this is a joke I tell, but it's really quite accurate. Every time I invest in a founder, it's like I got married, because that's really what it is. I'm in a relationship with that person, and I've made a commitment to them, and it's not easy to back out of that commitment without real repercussions. So imagine getting married 30 times a year. That's not really easy to do. So you got to be really cautious doing that 30 times.
Right. Interesting.
What I'd love to do with the time we have left is, people are probably thinking, what does it take to be that person that wins that pitch that Tom marries?
Yeah.
And this would be a perfect time for maybe you to talk a little bit about, because this is something you're offering to people, is all about Wasabi Ventures, maybe a little bit about it, the experience, the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Very generously offered this entire audience to go through that at no charge. There's no strings attached. There's no upsells. There's no, what we were joking about before, there's no in-app purchases. This is a place for these people to go and walk through to get to that point where you are ready to make that pitch to somebody, either you yourself or somebody like you.
Yep. So yeah, John. So we run for the last 5 years, we've run something we call the Wasabi Ventures Academy. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is an educational institution teaching people how to be founders. And you can find it at academy.wasabiventures.com. I think Brian threw the link up. Feel free to go and sign up. That's great. It truly is an educational institution where we've had 5,000 students go through it in that time.
Oh my gosh.
And the only way, and Brian, you were before we had the academy, and you were part of the inspiration for the academy at some level, because what we were finding was that we were making these bets on people, and they really didn't know us. They didn't know, we didn't know them, and they really couldn't speak the language that we live in our business.
Yeah.
So we created an educational institution to teach people that, and even more than that, for them to spend some time to get to know us and know us well, and what we really believe in, and what our dreams are, and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, TK, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's almost like, you talk about if you're deciding 30 times a year if you're going to marry somebody, this gives you an opportunity to date a little bit.
That's exactly, to stay with the analogy, Brian, that's exactly what it is. It is our form of dating, and it is two-way dating here. This is not one-way dating. It's just as important that you get to know us as we get to know you. That's the key. It's not, because you are betting your time and energy. We're going to ask you to do that if you're one that gets selected. That's what we're asking. And why would you want to do that with somebody that's a stranger? That doesn't make any sense. It's silly.
Yeah.
When we co-found, we call it co-founding. When we co-found with someone, they have to go through our academy. We do not do co-founding. We don't do what we did with Brian anymore. And that's not, believe it or not, it's not Brian's fault.
Sure.
It was lessons learned. We got very lucky. I'll be very honest. We got very lucky with Brian being sort of the very first person we ever did this with. 7, 8 years. I don't even know how many years ago we're going back now, Brian. But it's 6, 7 years when we first started playing. And we got
2009.
Yeah. So the next two people that we did it with were dismal failures. Terrible failures. And they were dismal failures because we didn't know the people, and they frankly didn't know us. And so that really started us on what became the academy, for sure. And it's been very successful. It's been something we're very happy with at many levels. And so are the students, by the way. Even for the ones that we don't wind up starting companies with, it's a big win. It's a big win because you're getting a free education out of it.
Yeah, you guys, the program, for everybody on this call, seriously, you'd be crazy not to go sign up. It is application only, but he's literally offering this to you. If you're watching this replay later on, it's still going to be available for you, but it's amazing. And then they've been working on this for years. Take advantage of what he's putting in front of you. This is an opportunity for you.
Yep.
So, everybody watching this on the replay, there's a link just down below. Maybe Brian just popped that link in the chat again. Now, think about this. To tie all this together, this entire summit came together, TK, because we wanted to inspire a whole generation of entrepreneurs to do good through doing business. We wanted to promote how to do excellence in building, starting, running, growing a company, because we had a guest earlier, Lance Wallnow, and he said, the one thing the world doesn't need is another broke philanthropist. So, we need to succeed and thrive in business because we're creating value, and that's what we can go do to go out and make a difference. So, we have people that are really engaged. They want to build these companies. I think there are a lot of people here that really resonated what you talked about. It has to be coming from that place of who you are, from a place of a passion that's a dream. And so, just these folks, this audience, thousands of people, what would be maybe a final 2 or 3 takeaways that you would just love for them? This is the end of the summit, that you would just love to drive home for them to just remember as we're wrapping up here.
Yep. I'll give it 3 quick things, John. 1, be true to whatever it is that you are. Be honest with yourself and be what you are, not what you think somebody else wants you to be. 2, be actionable at all costs. Sitting on the sidelines and not in the arena does no one any good. Find what your risk coefficient is and max that out. And then last and probably not least is to understand that this is a journey that is not a direct line. It is never a direct line. It is always zigzag. It is always fraught with pain and suffering to go along with joy and happiness. And that's how this game gets played. It's not a direct line. It's not supposed to be. And you have to enjoy the zigzag effect as much as you enjoy the good times.
Man, I love that. So be true to yourself. And I'm glad that you brought up not what other people's expect or think of you. Right? I love what you said before, because I wrote it down. Man, you got to just stop lying to yourself, right, TK?
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, what does it look like to just fully accept yourself? I wrote that down, and then you went through that. I thought that was so great. Be actionable at all costs, and it is a journey. And people can go back and watch Lance Wallnow's. He talked about these process events when you're going from peak to valley to peak. And he really talked about putting these valleys in context. These are not junk you have to go through. This is part of actually creating you into the person that has the skills that it takes to actually even get to that next peak. So you have to embrace some of the stuff you have to go through, knowing that this is actually going to accelerate me, even though it might not feel like it right now. And I love that. And guys out there, go through what TK said about this 30-day challenge.
Yeah.
So I hope that in 30 days from now, I get a whole bunch of emails from some folks, or we can jump on a Zoom room and go through this brainstorm, and I can help you just get some clarity on what is this one problem that you uniquely solve for somebody else. So TK, you know what? You're wrapping up this amazing summit. It's been for 5 days. I just love to, turn it over to you. Any just final thoughts on anything?
No, just thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
It has been great having you here, and everybody else who's been part of this, who's still here. By the way, the number of people watching in on this, TK, has been growing. I think people have invited some of their friends to hear you. I'll guarantee you, just based on this is, I was just texting Tom, our co-founder. He couldn't be here for this one live. That this is literally one of my favorite conversations we've had the last 5 days. So TK, from Brian and I to you, just our sincere thanks. Really appreciate that. It's been amazing, my friend. And to everybody else who's participated and been part of this, we really look forward to just creating this community coming out of this. We have thousands of people engaged, growing, getting to know you, connecting on Facebook. We're going to be doing some live events, some live online events. And remember, anybody who upgraded to VIP, you get tickets to Tom's live event, Strategic Philanthropy, and what Brian and I are doing at Gen Y Ignite. TK is going to be there, and they're actually going to be doing a live pitch competition is my understanding, and you might get invested in at the Gen Y Ignite event, which is going to be in Vegas. So lots of great stuff coming together, folks. God bless you all. If there's anything we can do for you, pray for you, be a part of whatever you're doing in your lives, we're here for you. Any final thoughts, Brian?
No, there's nothing else to say. I might get a little teary-eyed here if I really do. It's been a 5-day journey, and it's not ending. TK, my friend, thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. John, man, you're my brother, my partner, my business partner, I should say. Thank you for all that. And everyone who's on, who's still on, I'm absolutely wowed and amazed, and we're going to continue the conversation. It does not end here. Now go turn on the hockey game. I'm late. I want you guys to know the game has started, and I'm still on Zoom.
That is dedication. All right. See you guys. It was a great summit. Love you all. Have a great night, and look forward to talking to every one of you, hopefully very soon.
Thank you, everybody.